What I'd like to know from all of you is, what was that first scene in the script when you first read it and you thought, I have to do this part? Anyone?
Well, I hadn't really acted before and was really young, so it wasn't like I need to do this role, or it was kind of just more of a hobby at the beginning. But yeah, I thought she was kind of similar to me. But yeah, my 12-year-old head didn't realize that it was going to turn out to be this. But yeah, I'm glad that it has.
For me, the audition scene for Marjorie Terrell was the famous scene where she offers Renly Baratheon to use Loras in the room with her own brother. Whatever will get him going. And I had watched Maisie season 1 in Game of Thrones, and I thought Thrones just wrote really three-dimensional, complex women really well. There was equality there, which was wonderful, so I just wanted to be a part of the show.
So, Natalie, I love that you've described Marjorie as this woman who uses the modern PR angle that's got like the Princess Di, Michelle Obama, hearts and minds thing down. And I just wonder, how manipulative is she? I mean, is it all about playing the angles, or is there's some deep heart in there too? What's her motivation?
Where television is fantastic and is way ahead of film is it doesn't feel the need to polarize women so much. I experienced it in playing Anne Boleyn as well, that male writers, and I say this with all love and respect, often want to make a woman either the angel or the whore. Make her the witch or put her on the pedestal. And when people ask me about Marjorie, I say they're not mutually exclusive. You don't have to be practical and politically savvy and not be a good person. You can be a good human being and be and just be shrewd. I think all these women play similar characters. They're not two separate things. Half the people in this room are probably female. We're as complex and contradictory as the men. And Marjorie is a character that reflects that.
Yeah, definitely. Now, Maisie, your character has had a rough couple of years and wandering on those hillsides, and it's not so good out there. And that last scene that you had with the hound where you walked away, it was just, it was pretty incredible, and it seemed like a big transformative moment for your character, and I wondered how that was for you to play that, and is that how you saw it?
It was the main change in Arya so far. I feel like every year we're never sure if we're going to come back for another season, and you want a nice closure for your character. And I feel like heading into the new season, it's like we've just finished that chapter of Arya's life. That's who she was then, and she let go of everything that she kind of had before. And I mean, doing that scene, I knew it was coming for a long time. And the way that it was done in the series is very different to the way it was done in the books. And I wanted to know how people would react to that. It seemed to go down pretty well. It was a hard scene to do. It was hard to say goodbye to Rory. We'd spent so much time together this year. And he's such a great guy. And yeah, the scene, when I read it on paper and when I came to set, it kind of just seemed to go really seamlessly. And we all sort of had the same idea of how the scene was going to go in our head, and when we got there and it sort of played out the way it did, it just felt really natural, which was great, because sometimes you have to change a lot of things to please different people on set, so it was nice that we all had the same idea for it.
You guys have had to do a lot of physical things in all your roles and master different weapons and guns, carving forks and swords and supernatural powers and things like that. Are there any one that have been particularly challenging or particularly fun to do, or things you really enjoyed as far as the training goes, perhaps the sword play, things like that?
So in the books, Arya was written as a left-handed fighter, and I am right-handed. And when I started the production, I decided that I wanted to do everything left-handed and stay true to the books. Which started out as a bit of a giggle, and it was good fun, and now it's turning out to be kind of difficult. But I'm sticking with it, and yeah, I mean, it worked out fine. A lot of the time I come in to learn a stunt sequence, and it's been choreographed right-handed because they forget, and then I have to come in and say, actually, we got to change it all because I'm going to use my other hand, which is a bit of a nightmare, but exciting and adds another twist to it, I guess.
I've been having a lot of fun running around on the Hunger Games with a semi-automatic rifle, and I was so ready to get rid of the silk skirts and the corsets, but now after 9 months of mud and dirt and being really physical, I'm ready to go back to the silk skirts.
So Maisie, the first thing Emma Watson did after she finished playing Hermione was she cut off all her hair. She was so sick of being a teenager and not being able to express herself the way she wanted to because she was Hermione. And I just wonder if that's something you relate to, being Arya Stark during your teenage years. And
yeah, totally. I mean, this industry, we have to be blank canvases, and I've realized that. And then when you get a role, they build on that, and you become that person. And particularly being so young in this industry, I feel like I have to find who I am as a person, anyway, and go through my teenage years, and also live in the limelight, and juggle all of that at once, which sometimes does get really, really hectic. And yeah, it's hard. I would love to, do crazy things with my hair, and I recently got my nose pierced, and that was like all hell break loose, and everyone was like, Arya doesn't have a nose piercing, this is crazy. Yeah, so it's difficult, and it's to try and express yourself and be yourself, which is what everyone is constantly telling me, just be yourself and be true to yourself. And it's kind of hard to do that when you can't, because, for whatever reason. It's just finding the balance between the two, I guess.
But kind of on the flip side, Natalie, what we were talking about earlier is sometimes these roles allow you to do things that maybe you wouldn't be brave enough to do on your own. Maybe you wouldn't shave one side of your head if it was up to you. But for the part, it was something that you were required to do, and then you kind of get to own it. And it's something that it's probably really fun, I would guess.
Yeah, the beauty of being an actor is that you find yourself in places, physically in places, or doing things or learning things that you wouldn't ordinarily do. And so we have a multitude of lives for the price of one. And, that's the gift of being an actor. So, and Tatiana times that by 5 times over. So, yeah.
So if you guys could trade roles with any of your castmates on your current shows, Tatiana's kind of a hard question for you to answer. But for everyone else, who would you want to play if you could play somebody else on your shows that you're currently on?
Cersei Lannister.
Cersei Lannister.
We were just talking about this backstage because apparently there is a quiz online on which Game of Thrones character are you? Has anyone done this? So you can go online and you answer some basic multi-choice questions and what character are you? And I did it, of course, as Natalie Dormer, and I was Arya Stark.
Hey!
Which I thought was cool.
And I've never done it, but I'll have to now, and fingers crossed I get Cersei.
I think she's going to be Peter Dinklage. I think she's going to be Tyrion.
So being a woman that kicks ass, you guys have the right to get mad and be pissed off. Is there anything, what pisses you off about Hollywood right now?
It's really interesting because you said earlier, and then Nicole has also commented on how liberating it is to not worry, to do a job where you're not worried about how you look. Mm-hmm. And because the focus seems to be on that for women. And it's not fair on you guys, because you're watching us, and you don't realize how much makeup and how much lighting is involved. When we look good, we've got a lot of help going on.
And when we don't look good, that's just what we look like.
Yeah, I often think that it's not healthy for young girls to be flicking through these magazines and to be looking at films and TV and seeing these shows. I feel quite strongly about it because, and there's a more European attitude if you look at French film or Spanish film, that they're a little bit more open to the quirks of human nature, that we're not all symmetrical, that we're not all one shape. You know, that people are oddballs in different ways, aesthetically, cosmetically, as well as emotionally and personality. And you need more of that. Films, features. The best female roles, I think, are in television at the moment. I really do. And Katniss Everdeen is as popular as she is because she's an anomaly. She really is. So that's my point.
I do live action role play, which requires me to know a lot about combat, and I was curious what the most unique element has been for you guys to learn a stunt.
Do a stunt? Is that what she said? Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
The
I want
most
to know, ask
unique
her what
element
live action
to do
role
with-
play means.
Yeah.
She's going to come back and she's going to tell us.
Live action role play is interactive theater, a book, a video game that has been turned into a live action event where you get to be those characters.
Oh.
Right.
Any tips?
But, so the question is,
Dum, dum, dum.
Tips for the action stunts that you guys have done.
I haven't. You go, Natalie. You've done them, haven't you?
Talk about that machine gun.
Yeah, I mean, actually doing it, I don't get to hold a sword as Marjorie Terrell, but I went to drama school with Nicole's co-star, Tom Meissen. We trained together. And at drama school in Britain, you do a lot of stage fighting, stage combat. It's like part of our classical thing. And, because we're oh so superior. Tom and I used to do workshops at the Globe Theatre. There was like the Shakespeare Theatre, where obviously in a lot of Shakespeare plays, there's a lot of combat, sword fights. And I always couldn't get I didn't like the authenticity. It never felt right. So for a couple of years, I went and took up fencing. And actually doing it for real, like shooting a gun for real, is the best way to then. And actually, I've referenced her already, but that Jennifer Lawrence, when she shoots a bow and arrow in The Hunger Games, 9 times out of 10, she doesn't really have the arrow. It's CGI put in. Probably going to get in really big trouble for that. I don't think that was the case in the first film, but I think for practical reasons, they found it better to add it in afterwards. But she shoots arrows, the real thing, for training constantly, so that the action is 100% authentic when the arrow actually is no longer there. So does that make sense?
Yep.
That's my tip.
Very helpful.
Hi, I'm Catherine. My question's for the whole panel. I was wondering if you could say your favorite kick-ass moment that your character or one of your characters has had. Not necessarily physically kicking ass, but personal triumph or victory kick-ass moment.
My character, Arya, a lot of the time is very confrontational and never really very passive. Usually just comes out and says what she feels, except for one time in season 2. It's a scene between Arya and Tywin Lannister when Arya tells Tywin that anyone can be killed. And at the time, he doesn't realize who she is and kind of doesn't think anything of it, but she knows at the back of her head what that really means to her and what that really means when she says it out loud and what that's going to mean to him in the future.
My kick-ass moment would be, I want to be the queen.
I was wondering if any of your cast members on your respective shows have ever had a scene that maybe you wish that you could have performed yourself, and or if you could pick one, what would it be?
I'd love to just do more stunts. A lot of the time we have doubles that do things for us in case we get injured or whatever, which is so stupid, in my opinion. So yeah, I'd love to do more of my own stuff, and I'd love to do more work with the horses. I know Richard Madden, who plays Robb Stark, got to actually gallop, and I want to actually gallop instead of someone else galloping for me. So yeah, I'd love to do more stuff with the horses. Robb Stark.
Yeah. Love me some Robb Stark.
Yeah. Oh God, I think I just want to be you.
Thanks.
to all the ladies up there, if you had the opportunity to play any superhero or villain, regardless of gender, who would it be?
It's a good
There you
question.
go.
I would pay Spider-Man because the typical superhero look is this strong, muscly, big character, and I like the Spider-Man is kind of agile and not that, and like kind of unsuspecting as well, rather than like coming out and like lifting up a car. It's like, I don't know, I feel like it's a lot more subtle than that. So yeah, Spider-Man.
I was always a huge Batman fan. Like, the psychology of that man is so interesting, and it's why it's had so many reincarnations. Batman.
Hi, I'm Jess. My question is for Maisie and Natalie. Maisie, your character is seen as a very fiery character, and Natalie, your character is seen as a very resourceful character. And I suppose my question is, which one do you think is more ruthless in the series?
Oh. But that's... it's...
Well, I say the way Marjorie can manipulate characters is not something to be messed with at all. So it's for very different reasons. I mean, physically brutal. You know, some of the kill scenes that Arya has had have been vile for a 12-year-old to be experiencing that firsthand. It's awful. And I think we all like to turn a blind eye to that, actually, as well, which is something that I kind of wanted to bring up. That there's a 12-year-old girl that living in this world, and we all like to kind of brush that aside, that she actually just put a sword through someone's throat and like, hey, that's such a kick-ass moment, which it is, but you can't live your life like that and be okay in the head forever. Like, that's not the way it works. So then coming on to episode 10, when Arya does decide to leave the Hound, there is no real reason as to why. She's not sure what's right and what's wrong anymore, and there is really no right or wrong answer, because that's what Game of Thrones is just these people that are desperately trying to, for whatever reason, gain power or the throne or revenge on their family, or, you know, and I think it's difficult to say that a character is good or bad.
Well, Maisie's totally knocked the nail on the head by saying, and you have, it's an astute question, because the answer is Game of Thrones shows you all the different ways you can wield power. Whether it's psychological, physical, sexual, dragons. I think we'd all go for the dragons if we were given a choice. But, you know, that's the secret of the writing. That's why it's such a compelling show, because it shows how different people are given different weapons physically and metaphorically, and how they use them.